Hey everybody, welcome to Dying Laughing with Jessimae. We have a guest today. I'm very excited to have this guest on, and I was just telling him that initially when I knew I was going to have him on, I wanted to talk about the stages of grief and maybe pick a particular stage in grief and have us dive deep into it, because he is someone who I know that I can tread those dark waters with without feeling insecure and being able to be pulled in deeper with, because he has that capacity. But then, like so many times recently in my life, I think due to a relative newfound sobriety, not like I'm on a 12-step program, but just clearing out toxicity in my life, I had this epiphany come to me, and I was like, oh, I want to talk about death in general, and not death like death of someone you love, death of you, death of parts of you, death of things in your life that you should have buried but you didn't bury, an ego death or a belief system, or it could even be the way you used to be and looking in the mirror not recognizing yourself. And so today's guest is a perfect person to have on, an author, an instigator, aka the captain, which I know we could talk about a death when it comes to that.
Yes, we can.
Kyle Creek.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. And I thought, like, as we were sitting here talking, let's talk about the captain and the death of the captain.
Do you want to talk about the birth of the captain first?
First.
I kind of feel like you have to go through the whole gamut.
Go to the birth and we'll get to the death.
Yeah, I mean, so I've been known online for the past probably decade as the captain, and it really came from, it almost came from like a level of protection, because when I started using that name online, it was really to kind of conceal my identity, because I had a full-time job in advertising, and I was just so grateful to have a job as a writer, because all my life, that's all I really wanted to do is write. And I knew if I could get in advertising, I could make some money at it. And so I didn't want to fuck that up. So I started using the captain online. That way I could have my own like brash opinions and not worry about, my boss at work finding out about it. And then it got to the point where I was writing a lot of TV commercials, and I would write these jokes that I thought were funny, but clients thought they were too crude or too crass for TV. So I started tweeting them instead, because I thought they were good observations on life. And that started to snowball for me. And it took off, and it got to a point where I started getting work because of this captain persona and not because of my advertising, experience. And I leaned really heavy into that, and I started, writing books. And, my first book was a friend that convinced me, hey, you should just compile your tweets and do a coffee table book. And I did that, and I made more in a month than I made, the past like 6 months of my salary. And so I was like, okay, there's something to this. And so I leaned into it really heavily, and to the extent that, when I'd go out or I'd go anywhere, even like friends of mine, everyone started calling me the Cap or Captain, or no one really called me Kyle much anymore. And it started to bother me. And I didn't feel that I had a career that would allow me to separate myself from that. And I've tried to write other books, very different from these types, more dark, heavy books, like you were talking about, the death kind of related stuff. And I've had a hard time getting publishing contracts as Kyle Creek. As a captain, I can get them, but as Kyle, I wasn't able to. And so then I kind of felt like I was just stuck with this captain character. And then with this recent book, this republication of speech therapy, when it came out, the day that it came out, I decided, I'm fucking done with this. And I sent an email out to everyone that I couldn't do this captain thing anymore. I couldn't be this version of myself anymore. It didn't represent who I wanted to be, where I wanted to go with my career. I mean, it really was a joke that kind of got out of control, to be honest. I mean, it was a nickname my friends gave me in my 20s, because they said, going out with Kyle is like getting on a ship and waiting for it to sink. Because at some point it's gonna go wrong, and that's because I was very rowdy and wild at that time in my 20s. I mean, I was.
Were you an instigator?
Yeah. Yes. I was.
What would you do?
I was heavy into drinking. I mean, I'm not shy. I used to do a lot of cocaine. I was very much. I like to party, and I like to see how far I could push people and see how far I could push things before a bar got tired of me and kicked me out. And I was just very, I was very rowdy, but I think most of it was a place of insecurity. I think I convinced myself if I portrayed myself as someone who doesn't give a fuck, to use that term, no one could hurt you, because they look at you and go, oh, he's so fucking wild. Like this, he doesn't care, he can't be hurt. It kind of was, it was a shell I created around myself.
Right.
And then the captain kind of became another extension of that shell. When it came to my writing and my work. And so I'm too old for that shit now. I mean, I'm almost 39 now. I have a son, and it's not, I can't take myself seriously as the captain anymore. And even when like I was at the height of, the heyday of Instagram per se, when people would call me the captain, I always kind of felt odd about it. It gave me like this weird pit in my stomach. Like it felt like I wasn't being me. I wasn't being genuine. And all of my writing has very much laid into that, where I've tried to be very genuine with everything I say. Even when I was using the captain as a total veil, no one knew my real name. I was always trying to write from a place of authenticity in my own life. I was writing about my own mistakes. I was writing about things I was dealing with. And it just got to the point where it just felt really fucking gross is the only way to put it.
It's kind of ironic that you created this persona per se to protect yourself, and then it ended up becoming kind of a prison.
I think that's what most people do. I just did it in a more public form than most people.
Right.
I think a lot of us do that in our youth. We create like these alternate personalities or ways that we want to show ourselves to the world. You'll portray yourself as someone who's very tough, and that's because you're genuinely a pretty, soft person. You feel things very deeply. So, to protect yourself, you have to be the opposite. And so you have to be really tough. You have to act really independent. You have to act like you have everything together, because inside you really don't. And so mine was just a very public display of that, because I did have a lot of notoriety as a writer that I'd gained from, using a moniker.
Right. And, when you were a kid, what do you think created this need to instigate? Like
religious upbringing.
Okay, so you were very...
I grew up in Utah. I grew up Mormon. I grew up very Mormon.
Damn.
My family was very active in the LDS church, and it wasn't probably until I was around 14 or 15 when I started to have like a brain of my own that I realized how much I just didn't agree with it. It didn't sit well with me. It made me feel like I was constantly being, watched, and it gave me a lot of shame and a lot of guilt, and it felt very stifling for me. When I started, in high school, when you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your life and you're kind of lost, it just felt very stifling for me that I wasn't able to just kind of pursue what I wanted to in life, and I had to do something that, was appropriate in the eyes of God or whatever at the time. It didn't sit well with me, and so I had a lot of arguments with my parents. I mean, I was getting my keys taken away. They were grounding me. It was a rough, year or so when I first started really pushing back against the church. And then we came to an understanding that I was still their son, and my parents still, we still loved each other. We still had respect for each other. And we just understood that we didn't see things the same way in terms of religion. And we just kind of stopped talking about it.
And you guys are still close now.
Very close. I talk to my parents all the time.
That's not always the case, especially
and my mom was my editor for my first several books.
Oh, wow.
I mean, because I grew up in a very creative household. I mean, my dad was an artist. My mom was an avid reader and editor and wrote some stuff on her own. And so growing up from a kid, I mean, I was always reading. I was always drawing. And so we always had that bond. And I think had we not had that bond, it probably would have been a lot more volatile when I did start pushing away from the church, because we always had at least that shared common respect and, enjoyment of creativity. I read a lot with my mom. She's the one that got me reading like Mark Twain and all these old classic authors. I learned about that from her. And so, even in my adult years, when I started getting into advertising, I was always running some of my creative concepts by them. I was always talking to them about things I was creating, because we always shared that. And I think that really kind of helped us stay close, even though we view life very differently even today.
That's very rare, because a lot of the times when you grow up in such a uber religious upbringing, there's a lot of excommunication that happens, especially within the Mormon church.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, excommunication's a thing.
Yeah, I'm not sorry to cut you off, but I have friends that have completely polar opposite experiences that to this day still haven't talked to their parents, or they can't talk to their parents, or their parents just refuse to show up to their weddings, or it's just very immature in my opinion.
It's also kind of abandoning to choose an ideology over an actuality.
Yeah, I mean, having a son on my own, I could never imagine doing that. There's like almost nothing he could do in this life that would make me turn my back on him. Like, even if he fucked up and did something really nasty and went to prison, I'd still visit him. Like, he's still my son. And and at one point, it's one of the things that has helped me develop a lot of empathy the past couple of years is, becoming a father. You look at everybody and you think at some point, that was someone's kid. Someone loved that baby, hopefully. Someone tried to teach that kid right from wrong, and
right.
shit happens. And so I think when you have that understanding of people, it's a lot easier to have empathy. And, in this day and age, as much as I hate to harp on it, because everyone does, I mean, the division right now is just fucking insane. And if you can kind of step back and kind of see what perhaps might have transpired in that person's life to get them to where they're thinking, I think it's a lot easier to have conversations with people and to hold some space for differing ideas.
Yeah, I think different ideas aren't the problem. I think not being open to new ideas is the detriment to society. And, we both travel a lot. I travel a lot. And I feel like the division mainly exists in a digital space.
100%.
And obviously that's dangerous because it creates this mass echo chamber.
Yeah.
Where we all are like, yeah, this is like this over here and this is like that over there. And it's like the wild, wild west when it comes to being online. But before, you were saying that you wanted to take a lot of what you're doing off online. Like you don't want to have so much on social media. So what does that look like? Like, are you talking about just writing tangible books and not promoting them online? Or
no, I mean,
taking everything that you do off of the internet? Because if I don't get to see your like anecdotes once in a while, I don't know if I'll survive.
You'll have to buy books then.
I'll have to buy books and read books.
What I wanted, I mean, I would love to disappear into obscurity and never be on social media again for the rest of my life.
That's what you said. You said you just wanted to disappear.
One of the things that attracted me about being a writer, and I used to tell people this in my early 20s, is you can be a part of grandiose ideas, but no one knows who you are. I liked that there was this level of just complete separation when it came to, like, for example, if you were a screenwriter in the 90s, aside from people directly in the bubble here, no one knew who the fuck you were. You could be very successful working on awesome projects and you can go travel and no one would bother you. Unlike, the actors that are actually in the film, for example. And so I always liked that. And I never wanted to be recognized physically. I mean, I enjoy being recognized for my work. I like when people write me and tell me how much my books have helped them and stuff like that. But I never wanted to be, like a known person. And so that's why, for a long time online, I didn't even post like photos of myself, or if I did, like it was not in a way that was trying to really promote myself.
It's hard to find photos of you.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, at least good ones.
No, there's a couple of really good ones, but it's, the pickings are slim, which I thought was interesting. I was like, oh, there's only a couple to choose from.
Well, I've never even had like a proper headshot for like my books or anything. Like all my headshots, like they just pull them off like my Instagram page or something. Like I've never actually sat down and done like a proper headshot because it's just not something that really enticed me. It kind of just happened. I don't know where we're going with this. Oh yeah, as far as creating offline, for a long time, I put a lot of work into building a presence for myself online because I knew as a writer, if I had an audience, as long as I had things to say, I'd always have people that would listen. But I think a lot of creators are going through this now. It's just like the algorithms and stuff where you realize you can't actually reach people like you used to be able to. And it's disheartening. But at the same time, I find that when I take long breaks from social media, I'm a better creator. I'm a better writer. And so, I have a book that hopefully is going to come out in the next 6 months, but it took me 2.5 years to write. And 2.5 years of writing pretty much every day. It's not like I sat on my hands. Like it was.
That's excruciating.
To be honest, the book broke me, and it fucked up my life in a lot of ways because I was so focused on the book, I wasn't in my real life.
And when you say you weren't in your real life, like what were the costs of that?
I was just hyper fixated on this book and the story I was trying to tell. And so I was just always thinking about it. And I was ignoring like things in my own life that needed addressed because I was so focused on trying to make this book as just what I wanted it to be.
What was being ignored?
Everything. I mean, my relationship fell apart. My son's mother and I separated for 16 months. We actually just got back together. But I mean, I lost my home. I almost had to declare bankruptcy. Like my life really like fell apart because I was so focused on this book. Like I wasn't taking on other jobs, or I told myself I couldn't take on other jobs. Even to pay the bills, it's like, I got to finish this book first. Like it's consuming so much of my focus. And I think the book is by far the best thing I've ever done. And I'm very proud of it, but man, it was a real sacrifice. And I had to take I think 6-7 months. I didn't even log into Instagram because I was just so focused on this damn project.
Have you ever been focused on anything like that in your life?
Never.
Why do you think
I've always worked pretty well in tandem where for a large part of my life, I had a full-time job. I mean, I had a full-time job until COVID. I was working full-time as a creative director, and I was traveling a lot, and I was working 50, 60 hours a week for my clients. And then at night, I would write books. I'd write my own things. It wasn't until, COVID happened that I left the full-time corporate world and started kind of focusing on consulting work, but it really opened me up to really dive deep into the kind of writing I wanted to do. So I've never worked like that on something, and I wouldn't have been able to do it if I was still trying to feed social media and be quippy and have like funny little one-liners and stuff. It's a completely different thought process.
It is. What do you think made this book so different? Why were you so obsessed with it?
I'm a man of my word, and it's a memoir that I was originally going to ghostwrite for an individual, but once I got into the story, I cared too much about it, and I told him, I said, I can't ghostwrite this. I have to do this as like the author, the writer of it, because I'm going to pour too much of myself into it to be a ghostwriter. Like I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do that creatively.
That. Right.
And that was the thing. I was very hesitant to ghostwrite in the first place. I've been offered it before in the past, but I've always said no, because I have my own career. I don't need to ghostwrite, but I have friends that ghostwrite that do very well. Like if you can get a name for yourself as a ghostwriter, there's a lot of money to be made.
I could see, but your ghostwriting, I feel like your ghostwriting would be a little bit more to detect if you're writing.
That's
like,
the thing.
Did Kyle write this?
If you read this book, if you read this book, you wouldn't know I wrote it.
Really?
No.
The one that
yeah, but it's the best thing I've ever done.
That's amazing. That sounds like art.
It is not my tone. I very much, it's in the other character's tone. I don't want to talk too much about it because it's currently being shopped to publishers right now, but it was a huge sacrifice. And that's the stuff I really want to do moving forward. I mean, I want to write novels. That's always been my goal.
Yeah.
I mean, when I think about writing, the thing that sticks out most to me is The Count of Monte Cristo, when I was a young boy living in Mapleton, Utah, and I tied some fucking quilts together and made a bullshit little hammock in the backyard that always fell down. But I would lay in this dusty old quilt hammock in summer, just sweltering heat, and I'd sit there and read books. I remember reading The Count of Monte Cristo that way, and I was just like, it completely changed my view.
Right. Was the Book of Mormon in there as well? Did you read that?
No, I've actually never read it. I've just read like the parts of it that I was probably required to in Sunday school, but I've actually never read it or the Bible. Like I've just read pieces of it.
Did you see the Broadway play?
No, I haven't actually, but I've seen clips of it, and it's almost like being back in Sunday school. Like it's triggering. It's painfully accurate. No, it actually seems really funny. I just don't think I've ever felt the need to go see it because I kind of already know everything that's going to be in it. But yeah, like I always wanted to travel as a young kid. I've always had this weird belief that I wasn't meant to be in one place for long.
I was similar as a child. And
so reading to me was kind of a way to do that. And
right.
so I really got into classics that were set in European, places, because it just felt so foreign to me growing up in Utah and growing up in like a little mountain town, essentially. It was just so vastly different. And so I loved reading that kind of shit. And that's what I've always wanted to do. And I was telling someone this not too long ago that I think good fiction does more for the world than any self-help book ever could.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
Really good fiction can do more to change someone's perspective and help them than you can ever get from a self-help book. And it's another thing that bothered me recently is when I was referred to as a self-help author, and I was like, oh.
No.
I was like,
I wouldn't.
First of all,
that.
I'm not an author. I don't think I'm an author. I think I'm a writer. I think the difference is writers write about the world as it is, and authors create worlds. And that's kind of my way of paying a nod to people that do fiction, because it is so difficult. So until I do a novel, I'm not an author. I don't call myself an author. I prefer not to be called one, because I very much think I'm still a writer. And I told my agent this when she was asking why I was, pushing away from all this captain stuff. I said, let's be honest, no one's going to pick up a fucking novel written by the captain and think it's worth a damn. Like, if you're walking through the store and you see this really enticing novel and you pick it up and it says the author's name, the captain, you're going to be like, this is a fucking joke.
Who's this day drinker?
It's true, though. It's so I can't take myself seriously in this stage of my career because others won't either.
So did you have like a come to Jesus moment with the captain? Did you have a moment where you're like, I have to kill this?
It was a slow burn, but I've had a couple moments that really kind of spurred it. I mean, one of them was actually here in Hollywood. A couple months ago, I went to a party that was quote unquote, I guess, like an influencer party. I never get invited to things, which I kind of think is a compliment, because people know I don't really entertain. I don't network. I consider network as offensive as being called like a content creator. So
I'm similar to that.
I
feel the same.
legitimately do not get invited to things. Like I have people all the time after the fact going, "Hey, why weren't you at this or that?" I was like, "No one fucking told me. No one invites me to stuff." And so, I mean, even when I was at like the heyday of my Instagram, per se fame, I don't get invited to things. And so I think it's
maybe the sinking ship thing.
No, I think it's a compliment. I think people know that I'm not going to entertain it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I went to this influencer party because a friend of it was for a friend of mine. I've known her for 7 or 8 years. So of course I went to support her. But I was at this party and I was watching everyone interact, and you could see how fucking fake it was.
It's so
because
fake.
They would ask the same question to everybody, and you could overhear the conversations. It was always like, "Oh, what's your Instagram? What's your TikTok? How many followers do you have? How do you know so and so?" And it was like these.
How'd you get that job?
It was
do you
like
have an agent?
It was like these three. Yeah, it was like these 3 questions to see how worth their time or your time, is to them.
Or what they could get from you.
Really what they want to ask is, can we do a collaborative post and I can gain more followers from you? Is what they want to ask, but they won't say it. Not a single fucking person talked to me until the friend of mine started telling people who I was, and they looked up my Instagram, and suddenly they're like, "Oh, trying to come to have conversations with me." But I was literally there for like 2 hours. I was like a fucking ghost, and no one was approaching me. No one recognized me until they realized I had a couple 100,000 followers, and they're like, "We should talk to this guy." And it just made me feel so fucking sick. And I was like, this is everything I hate in life, to be honest. It's this like usury of each other. And
it's like sycophantic.
Yeah, that in combination with just a slow burn over a couple of years, I was like, I just can't do this. I hate it. I hate being introduced as the captain. I hate people looking me up and going, "Oh, the captain." I couldn't do it anymore.
So this was recent.
Yes, like a couple months ago.
And
I didn't kill the captain until April 22nd, like 2 months ago.
Wow.
It was the day that book came out.
Okay.
That I finally was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not doing it. It does not represent me as a writer, and I have to pull this Band-Aid off now if I want to become, the author that I hope to someday be.
I was going to ask you, like, what version of yourself did you have to kill off in order to become as you are today? Would you say it's that version?
Oh, I think that version died as soon as I had a kid.
Wow.
I had to. I couldn't be that person anymore.
Does it happen instantly?
No.
That realization, or is that also a slow burn?
It was a slow burn. I mean, obviously got the pregnancy to have it let it burn. You know it's coming.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first found out I was going to be a father, I was a fucking wreck. I was not ready. It was unexpected. And it took me a couple months to really wrap my head around how life was going to change. But then as soon as my son came into the world, it almost makes sense in an instant. But before that, it very much is a lot of processing. And there's absolutely no way I could be that character and be a father at the same time. They don't align. And it's something that I wouldn't want my son to emulate. It's something that I wouldn't want to have as my my legacy if something were to happen and then my son just looks up on, finds like old posts of me or something and just like, "Man, my dad was a fucking asshole." Like, yeah, it just didn't work for me as soon as I became a dad.
And what was the first change you made? Like, what was the first concerted effort you had to make?
Drinking, for sure.
So did you stop drinking completely?
No, I pulled back a lot. First of all, being a parent when you're hungover is the hardest thing fucking ever.
Oh my gosh.
If you think a hangover is bad when you're in your 20s, wait till you have to wake up and be a dad with a hangover. It's fucking difficult. It's hard enough taking care of a dog when you're hungover. I mean, I have 2 Great Danes, and so if I'm hungover and I have to walk them hungover, it sucks. But yeah, I stopped. I just my whole desire. I think a lot of it was probably during the time period too, because my son was born in 2021 in the height of COVID hysteria, where no one was really going out, and just my whole desire to go out and be social and be at bars and be out till 2 or 3 a.m. just like dissipated immediately. And I used to love it. I used to be like, dude, the best things happen after midnight. Like the best creative ideas come between 1 and 4 a.m. when you're in some random person's house. And that's how I used to really pull a lot of my inspiration in my career, was going out and seeing what I could get myself into. And it was almost like an unhealthy way of seeking creative inspiration. But I felt it gave me things to talk about. And you can't do that when you're a dad. It's too dangerous, too risky.
Of course.
Plus, you also got to be able to, you got to get up at the middle of the night. You got to be there in the morning. And so, like, almost immediately, I was just like, this is this is not my life anymore. And there's been a couple times when I've been on the road traveling or something. I'll like meet up with an old friend. We'll go out to a bar, shoot some pool. It's like 1 a.m. The next morning I wake up, I'm like, this fucking sucks, man. Like I'd much rather just be in bed at 9 and wake up at 5 or 6 and feel super sharp. Like it's fun in the moment, like when you catch like a drunk and you're like, oh, this is awesome. But like it just does not appeal to me like it used to. So like just the whole going out thing just overnight was kind of killed for me. It's just not something I have interest in anymore.
Yeah, it is kind of brutal to be drunk and then the next day have to deal with crying babies and actual responsibility.
Yeah, even if I'm not though, even if I'm on the road by myself, I just don't like being hungover.
Right.
Like I do a lot of my writing in the morning now too. Like my writing routine changed immediately too, because if I don't get writing done in the morning, my house becomes too chaotic. I mean, when I was single, living alone in in an apartment in New York, I could write whenever I wanted.
Right.
You know, I had nothing drawing on my time. But now it's like I got to get up at 5 earlier if possible, and I got maybe 2.5 hours of the house being quiet where I can really do some deep work. And then my son's up, and then the dogs need to go out, and then the cats are meowing to get fed, and then it's like after that, it's like, it's like phone calls and emails and like all the kind of bullshit that goes on behind the scenes with a career that people, don't see. And as soon as those emails start coming in and I take a couple calls, like my attention's shot.
Yeah. Then you're on a different
and I used to not,
wavelength.
I used to not deal with that. And so I had to really change my writing routine. I actually think it's made me a better writer because I do find that in the morning I have a lot clearer thoughts. You kind of wake up in that weird, like half dream state still. And I try to be in front of my laptop before I have my first sip of coffee. So I try to capitalize on like whatever like weird lucid state I'm still in. And I found that it helps me. I feel like the work I can do in 3 hours in the morning, super focused, is what it used to take me 8 hours to do, or even longer when I would write at night or write like when I found the time kind of thing.
Right, and getting into trouble to create
fodder. I mean, it's for the longest time I was like, dude, if I can make something funny out of this mistake, it's worth making, I would make mistakes intentionally knowing I could tweet something funny about it. And my thing was always like, even when I said, as the captain, I still wanted to be authentic. I didn't want to ever lie or like make shit up. And so if I did, tell a story, it was just true. That was like my thing, was like I need to have real experiences to write about. And so like I was like, this is a dumb fucking idea, but I guarantee I'm gonna write something cool about it. And so I would do it anyway.
It's kind of similar when it comes to stand up.
I guarantee it.
It's so often. I actually was just out with a friend of mine, and he's a very successful criminal defense attorney and trial lawyer. And every time he speaks, he goes, "You can't use this." And he's like, literally, legally, you can't use this. I'm like, please, let me. He's like, this is
client lawyer confidentiality. He's breaking me telling you the story.
He knows that. Like, I'm like, give me this, please.
It'd be hard dating a comedian, I think, for that reason, because I mean, I got a couple buddies that are also, comedians, and I hear them tell their relationship stories, and I'll be like, how much of that's true, dude?
Who do you know? Give me names.
I'll tell you after.
Okay.
But if it's like, dude, if I did that, I would actually feel bad. Like, I think you have to understand going into it with a comedian that your life's going to be fodder, and you're like, hey, as long as it's cushy enough, they're making enough money, it's kind of worth it.
Right. These are just words that have paid some bills.
Yes, exactly.
Let me just pay bills. That's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah, 100%.
My sister, there's a couple jokes that I've taken out of the Rolodex, out of the lineup, out of respect for her.
But you're like, if I take out if I buy you a Rolex, can I put it back in the Rolodex?
Now, see,
is the conversation you need to be having, because I feel like everyone is willing to let their life be put on display if it's pain.
There's a price for every experience. Is there something in your life, because it sounds like you've had a lot of departures from being, a departure from being a Mormon.
I feel like my whole life has been one big departure.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever officially arrived anywhere yet. I really don't.
I think that's a good thing. I think that we're constantly arriving. And is there any part of your life that you've departed that you haven't properly grieved? Is there still something that has a hold on you? Something that you...
Oh, for sure. I mean, I probably just haven't recognized it yet. But I know I still deal with a lot of stuff from my past. I know I still have, like, as much as I hate to say it, I still have like this wounded child in me, because I'll realize how triggered I get by things.
What triggers you the most? Like... I guess people like to call them
being
pet
iced
peeves.
out, for sure. I hate when people won't fucking talk to me.
Like in a relationship, like girlfriends or friends.
Anything. I hate when people get silent on you because there's something wrong or there's some kind of resentment, it drives me insane because I'm an overthinker by nature. I think that's also makes me a really good writer is I can look at something like, like a lamp, for example, and I can overthink it and go, how can I apply that lamp to dating? How is that lamp similar to a dating scenario? And that's how I used to come up with a lot of my tweets. Because essentially, in the old days when a tweet was like 140 characters, it was a joke. Like you'd set it up and execute it really quickly. And so I've always taught myself to overthink about things. And so when, people that I usually have like a really close relationship with go quiet on me, I overthink it. And a lot of that comes from my youth because when there was like a difference of opinions, particularly in like religion, I would get iced out a lot, or like it just wasn't a conversation that family members were willing to have because it was too uncomfortable. And so then I was kind of left just overthinking it and thinking, what the fuck did I do wrong? And so that stuff still triggers me. And I know it's an issue and I know it's something I need to address.
Did your parents ever ice you out? Were you ever not allowed to speak up about certain things as a kid?
I always kind of spoke my mind. And
It
that was
seems
part of
like
the
you
issue.
did. I was like, it doesn't seem like you had a problem.
No, I'll speak I've always kind of spoke my mind. It's when they're not willing to have the conversation on their end. That was always really hard for me. And I did experience that a bit growing up where, it would get too heated or it would get too uncomfortable. And I just wouldn't, my mom just wouldn't talk to me. I don't want to put her on blast. I still have a great relationship with her and I don't want anyone to think that's what I'm doing, but that stuff triggered me and it still does to this day. Like when I have a friend that like I'm super close to, and then suddenly, I don't hear from them for a while, I kind of start to think, what did I do wrong?
Yeah, the overthinking kicks in and then you start creating all these different scenarios and they're never right. They're never right. Your thoughts usually are not right and they're usually rooted in patterns that are negative
100%.
And that don't.
But the cool thing, though, is sometimes overthinking, I can create something really creative out of it.
Absolutely.
And I'll overthink it and be like, ooh, this is actually something really good to write in my next newsletter. And if people that read my newsletters, I mean, they're pretty much what I'm going through week to week. That's kind of how I write them. I just pattern them as what did I experience this last week and how did I process or talk about things, and I just basically write it out.
I want your newsletter. I didn't even know you had a newsletter. I want to be a part of the newsletter.
Shows what kind of fucking fan you are. I've had it for a long time. I've had it for like several years.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's called Monday Mutiny. It comes out every Monday.
Okay, Deb, we're going to have to write a note that I get the freaking newsletter because I want the newsletter.
But it really is like, usually it's like, here are 5 things this past week that either inspired me or like tested me.
That's inspiring.
And so I'll talk about like, stupid shit like, I took my son to a park and he got hurt and how I processed it and thought it was my fault. And then I'll talk about like real serious stuff. Like maybe this last week, I had like a pet die and here's how I processed it. It's really just kind of what I'm going through. I'll meet like some random person at an airport and I'll have these crazy conversations. Sometimes you meet that person, you just click, and then I'll write about it. And so I think that's why a lot of people enjoy it, is because it's not trying to be anything. It's just like, I really just talk about things as they happen.
Right. You made me think of the airport, such a magical place, I think. In my career.
Depends what airline you're flying.
Yeah, if it's Spirit, it's hell.
Well, it's more magical. I think, in that case.
It's more magical when you're Delta. if you have like a good situation with Delta. Every time I've had a doubt in my career where I've literally said to myself, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. It's usually been when I'm traveling and feeling like that loneliness and just dealing with the travel stress. And I would say 9 times out of 10, when I've had that thought in an airport, someone's come up to me. Someone who's
it's meant to be.
Recognized my voice or knew me from the thing. And I'm not a huge celebrity by any stretch. I'm, very modest.
I mean, you're on Guy Code. What was it called? Girl Code.
Yeah, MTV's Girl Code.
I remember watching that in my basement in Bluffdale, Utah.
What?
I lived in Bluffdale, Utah, which at the time was like a little podunk. That's why my parents moved out there, because it was like really quiet and you could have land and horses and chickens and stuff.
Sounds great.
Well, now it's like kind of a hot spot where you go if you got money. But I remember being in my basement in Bluffdale, Utah, watching, was it Girl Code? Yeah. Whatever it was. But I remember watching that. Because I remember when you first reached out to me, I was like, she looks familiar. And I Googled her name and I was like, oh shit, that's why. Because I used to watch that. And do you remember like Mansers on Spike and shit?
Yes, I loved Mansers.
Those shows were like pretty, for the time, I mean, they were pretty revolutionary.
They were
honestly.
edgy.
I mean, they were very much edgy. It's kind of what you get now on social media every day, but like pre-social media, like that kind of stuff, people were hungry for.
Yeah, we had regulations, people. We had some morals and regulations. Now it's just everything.
Yeah.
Everything's out there. How do you feel about AI's implications in your space?
I hate it.
It's scary, right?
It used to scare me. And then I realized it just means I had to become better as a writer, because I think there's still things that AI will never be able to replicate. And so I kind of take it as a challenge now.
Like, can you elaborate?
AI doesn't have emotion. AI can't emotionally connect to anybody. It can fake emotion, which people have become very used to, because a lot of people online, let's be honest, they fake emotion.
Right. There's a lot of human robots.
There's a lot of human robots. Good way to put it. There's a lot of already just fake shit online. So people see AI and go, oh, it just feels like what I'm already reading. But I think people who are more intelligent or in tune, I can pretty much peg AI a lot of the time now. It has a cadence to it.
It does have a cadence to it, and it's very strange.
It's devoid of emotion.
Yeah. It's like a lot of my exes. I'm like, oh, this is a pattern.
You might as well just get a sex robot at that point.
That would be great.
I mean, clearly you have a type. So at that point, just plug fucking Chat GPT or whatever into a buff fireman body and go to town.
Sounds great.
Just open that fire hose.
Yeah.
So it bothers me in the sense that it's allowed more dumb people to feel smart. And I think that's a big issue. I think Dunning-Kruger syndrome is like a major issue in society. And someone said this to me recently, where the problem with social media is it gave everyone a stage, and some people belong in the audience.
Ooh, that's pretty damn accurate.
It sounds like a real harsh thing to say, but it's very true. The fact that everybody now has a platform, feels they deserve a platform, and then you compile that with the false sense of confidence you're going to get from using AI to write for you or to think for you. It's Dunning-Kruger syndrome to like the nth degree. It's a fucking nightmare. And that's my big issue with it, is I think it's empowered more people to think they have a skill they don't. I mean, I can't play piano. I'm not going to act like I can play piano. I can't. I'm a writer. And the reason I'm a writer is because I spent a lot of fucking time learning to write. Someone told me that, the problem with prior to AI, creativity was being gatekept by the talented. It's like, no shit. That's the fucking point of it. You have to work to develop a talent. If it's being gatekept, do the fucking work to open that gate for yourself. And so now people feel empowered to write, and they shouldn't be doing it. And so that's my biggest issue with it. Also, I wrote about this recently in my newsletter. You would know if you read it, but
rude.
It's just
that was a jab.
It's just honest.
I feel like that was the second jab.
It's
maybe?
just honest. But I wrote recently about this, where I think AI is creating this constant state of skepticism online now, where you get online and you look at everything and go, "Is this AI?"
I just said that to my assistant on the way here. I'm like, I'm doubting everything.
The beauty in that is it's going to push us away from platforms. I think it's going to push people more into the real world again, because at least in the real world, it's fucking real. And so I think things like stand-up comedy, I was talking to a buddy of mine who's in a band, live shows, shit like that, I think is actually going to benefit from AI, because people online now are going to become so fatigued by this constant state of skepticism that they're going to be like, I don't want to do this anymore. And if that means like all of my platforms fall off, I'm cool with it. Like, keep that shit plugged in.
Yes.
And let's just fucking burn it all to fucking ground. And let's all go meet in the real world again.
And hang out and smell each other.
Yes, let's do it.
An article just came out saying pretty much a similar theory. They must have
read my newsletter.
I think they might have read your newsletter. They were talking about community coming back.
So I'm for it in that sense. In that sense, I'm at a point now where I'm like, keep it going. Keep it going. Let it get as bad as it can, because I think we need that. I think we need to be pulled back into our real life.
And play bocce ball together.
Totally.
Want to just like have a
day
drinking bocce ball.
When I was a creative director, I opened a bocce ball court in Reno.
It's a classy thing to do.
Yeah. It was one of my clients was a bocce court.
They're not. You just need a little bit of sand.
That was the first time I ever played it.
Really?
Yeah, I'd never played it before.
It's the best. When I grew up in Syracuse, New York, there was a bocce ball court behind one of the schools.
It's an East Coast thing, I think. Bocce
It's a very East Coast thing. It's an Italian thing. If you grow up in an area where there's an affluent Italian community, there's got to be a bocce ball court somewhere. Just a bunch of old Italian guys.
Bocce and horse heads. That's like the Italian way to go.
Yeah. And day drinking and being a little bit of a chauvinist.
Kind of fucking here for it.
Old school.
I kind of feel like I should have been raised in East Hampton. Not Utah. No, I love the way I grew up. I grew up with a fishing pole, and you grew up with bocce balls. But
I had a fishing pole too. My dad had a bunch of fishing poles. We would spend a lot of time in nature.
I had a fishing pole and a pellet gun. I'd put in a backpack and I'd ride my BMX bike to the reservoir and I'd stay there all fucking day.
Sounds like a Steven Spielberg movie.
Until my mom finally showed up in the green minivan to shout at us and tell us to come home. And then she'd drive back and we'd all ride our bikes back.
I feel like the green minivan is the vehicle of Mormonism.
It had to be.
I feel like that's you get Mormonism, you get the van.
I think they give you a discount.
For sure you get a van discount.
If you went in, like slipped your card and said you were part of like the local ward, they'd cut $5,000 off.
Absolutely. Are you a Mormon? Yes. I plan to fill this vehicle with a lot of children.
Totally.
Do you have a bunch of siblings?
I just have an older and younger brother.
Oh, so like you're like Mormon light.
Yeah, exactly. Or Miller Lite. You don't get drunk on our family. But I mean, I have cousins that have 8 kids, 9 kids that are my same age. And even my dad comes from a family of, I think, 7. And a lot of my dad's siblings, a lot of my aunt and uncles had 7 or 8 kids. And so, like, there was like a family reunion recently I didn't go to because I was too busy. But I think they did like a tree to show how many people have come just from my grandparents. And it's like 140 or something. Damn. Shit. Like, it's a huge number.
We have a similar background. I have, on my dad's side, my grandfather had 2 families at the same time.
That's very Italian.
It's very scandalous.
That's Italian.
It's very Italian.
I feel like if you have one family, you're not.
You're poor.
You're not a true Italian.
No, you're not.
You got to have one back in Sicily, back on the island.
Yeah, an unknown.
You have one there, and then one in New York.
Right. You have one family. You don't have one that no one knows about.
Yeah, come on.
You're not that Italian.
You're not Italian. What, do you eat spaghetti with a fucking knife too? Come on.
Yeah, was this a light Italian dressing?
Cutting your noodles and
where's
shit.
Where's the drama?
Fucking terrible.
Where's the scandal? But I have 45 first cousins on my dad's side.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I think it's fun to grow up like that, though.
It is. It's chaotic.
I actually loved growing up. One of my favorite holidays as a kid was Thanksgiving.
Hell yeah.
Because that was the holiday that we all got together for. Because for like Christmas, people would kind of go to like different family members. Or, we got to go spend time with this. But like every one of my relatives that lived in Utah, Thanksgiving was like we all did Thanksgiving together. And I always enjoyed Thanksgiving because of that reason. I thought it was awesome to see everyone at once.
I love that too. Do Mormon Thanksgivings have like reenactments of Mormon things?
No, it'd be kind of dope if they did, though.
It'd be cool, like, to do, like, you know how there's, they have Civil War reenactments? I feel like there should be some Mormon...
Some people dress up as Indians, some people dress up as pilgrims, and they just shoot each other. I feel like that's an East Coast thing.
But I mean, like, a Mormon version of that.
What would the Mormon version be? Did you watch American Primeval on Netflix recently?
I didn't. Do I need to?
Yeah, it's like Peter Berg did it. It shows the what was going on in early Utah between the Mormons, I think it's like a battalion, and the Native Americans at the time. It was like the 3 of them are all at war to try and, take over the Utah Valley. It's actually
that sounds very interesting.
It's super fucking well done. And everything he did, he actually went to Utah. He met with all the heads of the church.
For research?
Yeah, he took pieces from their own archives to make sure he told it accurately. And it's super violent, and a lot of church members do not like it because it does not portray them in the best light. But it portrays life as it was back then, which was fucking violent.
Yeah,
that's just life was violent back then.
Yeah.
Like, it had to be.
We think it's barbaric now.
Oh, that's one of my favorite things to talk about with people. It's why pretty much why I did the book Fucking History.
Right.
And that's one of the things when I do talk about that book, or when I used to do book signings, or like I did like a small tour, like spoken word kind of shit for that book. What I would tell people is, the premise of this book is, it doesn't matter if you're a king or a queen or a brutal, warrior from, the Attila the Hun's days. We all dealt with the same emotions that we deal with now: jealousy, envy, heartbreak. And it just so happens that when a king's heartbroken, he can fucking burn down an entire village. Like when
he rapes and pillages.
Yeah, when you're heartbroken, you might just like smoke a little too much weed. But the cool thing about this book and the style I did it in is it relates all of those stories to your life now. And so it'll talk about someone who like was beheaded, and then I'll relate it to, what it's like to feel betrayed by a friend today. And in a way it can kind of feel like a beheading.
Hell yeah, it feels like an emotional beheading.
So that's, I like opening people up to that idea, especially, you hear about this online, talking about online, how different it is from the real world, how people think life now is so awful.
It's so horrible,
it's
really?
Like, dude, it is so fucking easy.
The Black Plague?
It is so fucking
No
easy.
shoes?
Or not even
no
that.
TiVo?
Like, dude, back in the day, if you like got caught stealing something out of a CVS, they'd chop your fucking arm off. Like here in California, you can just steal away and do whatever you want.
I haven't paid for anything in years.
That's smart. I mean,
up to $1,000.
I mean,
you get the car running and just strong arms.
I've been here in LA for about 7 months now, and I feel the temptation to steal. I'm gonna
steal
be honest.
2 watermelon. Just take 2 watermelon.
Shit's fucking expensive here. I get it.
Up to $1,000 they don't prosecute. I don't know if there's
I think
still...
they changed that recently.
Did they?
Finally.
I'm going to test it out at TJ Maxx after
go
this.
For it. TJ Maxx. Dude, TJ Maxx for $1,000, you're gonna leave with half the store.
I'm gonna leave with home good stuff. I'm getting you a candle. I'll get something for the kid. How old is your son now?
He'll be 4 on Thursday.
We'll get some stuff for a 4-year-old. Yeah. I've got you. I'm getting stuff for everybody.
Candles.
And so you said you're reunited with your ex now, right?
Yeah, we got back together a couple months ago.
Can I ask about your relationship?
I don't care. Go for it.
How is that going? Like, has she recognized parts of you that have come forward that are...
Yeah, I mean, that's what
better than
that
what you
was
were
the only way
before.
we were able to get back together in the first place.
Yeah, what parts of you died that allowed the better part of you to show up?
I mean, a lot of it was me just kind of separating from this idea that I had to be successful to be loved, honestly. That's probably been my biggest issue in life. Because I didn't grow up with a lot of money. Like, we weren't like poor, but I do remember, times when it was very tough. And I remember going to like a dented can store with my mom. You'd buy like the dented cans because they were half price. And then my parents did declare bankruptcy, and we moved in with my grandparents for a while. And so like we lost our house and everything. And so
that's tough.
I have like a lot of financial anxiety because I experienced that. And then it turned around and my dad started a computer software company and it did very well. And I remember, we went from living in my grandparents' basement. Me and my brothers were all sharing one room and one bathroom. And it was like really embarrassing. And my dad drove this old like piece of shit blue S10. We called it the toolbox. It was just a fucking piece of shit. And I would make my dad drop me off around the corner so I could walk to school and kids wouldn't see what my dad drove.
Oh my gosh.
But the thing is, my dad was sacrificing all that to get this company off the ground. Because the reason he went bankrupt is because he believed in the company and no one else did. And so my mom supported him, and it eventually got to a point where it took off. And my senior year in high school, I remember my dad bought a Hummer. And at the time, it was like, that was like, in Utah, it was like seeing a fucking Lamborghini.
Yeah, I bet.
Like no one had seen one before. And my dad got one.
They're like, that must be Jesus's car.
Yeah.
Only Jesus could drive
and
that.
He let me drive it to a football game.
How cool did you feel?
Awesome. And that the way I was treated changed. And I think it instilled something in me to where I had like this real embarrassment about my family's finances just suddenly being recognized for my dad being successful. And that was what it took for me to be loved. And that was what it took for me to be enough. And so when I met, my girlfriend, we've been together for 7 years now, 8 years since we met. When we met in New York City, I was a creative director. I had a couple books published. I was doing very well. I had more money than I know what to do with. And I found a lot of ways to spend it. So I had a very different lifestyle when she met me. I was living in New York with like a doorman, and I had a washer and dryer in my apartment, which is like in New York means you got
rich.
It means you got some fucking money.
Rich.
I remember I used
taking some food to go.
But you know what I'm saying though, in New York, if you got that kind of building,
I had to walk blocks to wash my laundry with other people's laundry, Kyle.
I had a private elevator just to my floor.
You know how many times I had Asian lady underwear in my basket?
I believe it.
I wore it too.
So I had a very different lifestyle when she met me, but at the same time, I went to dive bars and shit like that. I met her at a bar. She was there visiting from LA. And so when like the whole COVID shit happened and I lost a lot of my work was tied to travel and tourism. A lot of what I did, like I said, the bocce ball court stuff, a lot of what I did was hospitality focused. I worked on a lot of hotels and I lost like all my money. And ever since then, I've never had that kind of cash again. And I've always had just this fear that I just was never going to get back to where I was, and I don't know why the fuck she was with me. And so I as much as I say I hate when people ice me out, it's my go-to when I feel insecure. I just get really quiet.
Isn't that interesting?
I don't talk to people. And so I pushed her away a lot when I was going through a lot of financial strain. And it just created this, when we should have been there for each other, kind of leaning on each other through hard times, I made it more distant.
Right, because you probably, I would imagine
like
your worth was gone.
I felt like a fucking loser. And
all the things you probably thought were the best part of you.
Yeah, I mean, it went back to it. That's what I felt I could offer people. I was the kind of guy that I always picked up the tab at the restaurant. I would take my buddies to clubs and I'd pay for everything. I'd pay for all the Ubers when we went out. Like I took care of everybody because I liked being able to do it, but also I kind of felt like I had to, I guess, because I knew that I was doing a lot better than my friends. And it just created this serious riff in my life when I lost that money. And so I think it just broke our relationship too. And it's just strain and the stress. And I was just constantly stressed about like, how do I get back on top? How do I get back on top?
Did you find yourself along the way? Like, how did you adjust that pattern of identifying your self-worth with success? Like where
almost declaring bankruptcy last year when I was working on this book I told you about. I sacrificed a lot for the craft, and I realized that the craft is where my real value comes from. The fact that I was willing to put myself in that bad of a situation to focus on this book kind of shows how serious I take what I do. I don't think a lot of people would have done that.
Except for your dad.
Yes, that's my dad. Like your dad. Exactly. Because I do believe in the end it's going to pay off majorly.
Right.
I think a lot of people quit during that stage. And so I realized during that time that it wasn't about money with her. It wasn't about, all the stuff that I thought I brought to the table. It really was about the connection we had and how we could be there and allow her to show up for me, because in a lot of ways I don't like people showing up for me. I hate when people offer to help me. I still to this day don't like it.
Why do you think that is?
It makes me feel incompetent. I like doing things myself. I'm just the way I am. And so, yeah, being back together now, I mean, we were separated for 16 months. I sold the house in Florida. I bought like the house we wanted. It had land. We had chickens. We were going to get like a little farm going, and then I lost it all essentially. I mean, I say I sold the house, but really it was like sell the house or fucking lose everything. So I had to sell the house. And she moved back here to LA for work. This is where her family's from. And so I came back too, because I refuse to not be in my son's life. I'll live wherever he is, even if I have to live in fucking LA. So I moved back here just to be with my son, and then, just seeing how we both kind of change. You slowly start spending more time together, and we were still trying to have like the family unit for my son. So it's like we still have to try to go to lunch together, or let's still do things with him so he sees like a family together, and then just kind of realize we still loved and cared for each other, and we were willing to work on it.
And so how do you identify your self-worth now outside of success? And what if
whether or not
all this went away?
Whether or not this book I wrote sells or not.
It will sell. It's too much a part of who you are. Like your writing is in your blood. And yeah. I'm a firm believer when it comes to creation and creators that if you are willing or even unable to admit that you're willing to do something because it's so ingrained to who you are, to lose everything in the pursuit of it, it is so much a part and ingrained to who you are that it will work. And what that looks like is up to the universe and how much work you put in. But if this were all to go away, where does your self-worth lie now? Where do you define it, and how do you define it? If you're not a successful writer and if you don't become an author, do you still have that core? And are you able to access that? Or is your identity wrapped in it?
I think I'm working on developing that still, honestly. I don't think I'm there yet, because a lot of my worth is still tied up in my writing.
That's fair.
It's like I replaced my worth of finances with my worth of creativity, which I think is a much healthier place to be, because I truly do believe that is my purpose in this world.
I agree.
I don't think there's anything else. The only other thing I would want to do is be a wildlife photographer, but at this point AI can just fucking do all that shit. So
partner with AI.
I know.
Jump in the stream, Kyle.
I've actually never even opened an AI app or a website. I've never used it. I've never even tried it. I never tested the waters. Nothing.
It's scary.
I won't do it. It
scares me.
It just feels too much like just dancing with the devil to me. And I know a lot of people tell me, oh, you need to learn to use it, or you're gonna get left behind. And it's like, this might just be one of those things where I have to be the dinosaur watching the asteroid hit. Like I might have to just be left behind in order to feel good about myself and know that like it's what's going to happen. So I think I'm working on what that identity is right now. And I think that, in addition to being a father, I think that I'm learning with a lot of my friendships that a lot of my friends, have been in my life some of my friends I still talk to since high school. And so they've seen like the whole gamut of how my life's changed. And they're still around. And so I realized that I have more to offer my friends than just, financial gain or fame or notoriety and shit like that.
That's an important reflection on yourself, to realize that your self-worth isn't defined by the success. And I have struggled with that myself, working and
I think anyone who's a public
is
figure struggles with that.
Yeah, I
Problem
believe.
is when the phone calls stop coming as often, you feel like a fucking loser. It's just what happens. Because especially when when you have like a TV show, for example, like, and you're in the scene and everyone's reaching out to you, and there's been times in my life where everyone's like been trying to get me to go to events or go to things, and then those calls stop coming, or your agent stops talking to you as long. Like, you can tell when your agent's really interested in what you're doing because they'll talk to you for an hour, and then sometimes they'll talk to you for like 5 minutes, and you're like, oh fuck, man, like, do I just have like nothing going for myself right now? Like, they don't care. I think everyone deals with that if you're in this realm.
Yeah, and especially in the entertainment industry, I do too. I think once you become closer to what that factor is that you identify for the self-worth and what you truly provide as a person, because it's so much more beyond your writing. Who you are is so much more beyond this.
Yet to be determined, I think.
I look, I believe it. I feel it. We've talked about so much. I guess that one of the things I want to ask is, there's a quote from something you wrote. You said, and it kind of goes into what we've been talking about. You said, I don't miss who I was. I miss who I thought I'd be.
When the fuck did I say that?
Do you remember where you were when you wrote that?
Where's it from?
I don't know. I just found it. It's on something that you wrote.
Okay, what is it?
I don't miss who I was. I miss who I thought I'd be. Because it kind of ties into this whole ideology about your self-worth and success.
I mean, that probably came from something when I was talking about, having to divorce myself from this captain character. I think when it started getting really popular, I had like these grandiose ideas of what it was going to do for me in my career, and it kind of did to an extent. But then I was so uncomfortable. I think part of the reason why my career didn't take off more than it did when it had a lot of momentum is I didn't feel in tune with the captain enough to push it. So like I felt like I don't want to pursue these opportunities as the captain because they feel like just so inauthentic to me that I kind of let off the gas and I let some things kind of fall to the side. And so I must have been reflecting on that at some point to where, I actually think I know where that's from. I think it was probably a talk about, I go through stages where I feel super, super confident about my work. And then I go through stages where like I have a lot of self-doubt. And I think a lot of creators have that too. And so it's probably something along those lines where I used to be so blatantly optimistic about my career because everything I did worked out. Like literally everything I did worked out. And so like anytime I had an idea, I was like, fuck man, this is going to succeed. This is going to succeed. And then I got kicked in the teeth a couple times. And then you start having ideas that are probably maybe even better than any idea you've had before, but now they have like an inkling of self-doubt to them. And so I hate that feeling. I hate feeling like I'm not capable of changing my life. And I hate feeling that I hate not being the truest believer in my work. Because I'll still have other people talk to me and tell me how much my work has affected them. And it's nice to hear, but if you don't have that belief in your work, it's nice, but it's not enough, honestly. And so that's probably what I was talking about in that piece. Is there was times in my career where everything was fucking working for me, and I was I was cocky. I wasn't just confident; I was cocky because shit. If I had fucking ideas, I made them fucking happen, and they worked time after time after time, and I miss feeling that way. I think I've been humbled intentionally. Honestly, I do feel. I wrote about this in my newsletter today because it is Monday, actually.
I would have read it if I got the fucking newsletter.
You could have read it on the drive here and had like some really current, relevant questions. But
I would have been too nauseous.
But
not from your writing, from the motion sickness.
Probably both, honestly. If I did my job correctly, you'd puke.
Like a Lars von Trier, but in the author form.
It's like a Murakami novel. Like if it doesn't make you throw up, it's not graphic enough.
Right.
I miss feeling that blindly optimistic about my work. And I think it'll take me a while to get back there because it's a fun place to create from. It's really fun to create when you know that whatever you create is going to succeed.
I have a prediction about that for you. I think when you come to that again, which you will arrive to that emotion and that velocity again, is when you get on the other side of this success being the core of everything, which it sounds like you're working through. And
I think life forced me to work through it. I got kicked in the teeth so many fucking times. I just had to shut the fuck up.
Well, that's a great thing. That's a wonderful thing as a man to also come to the realization about. I guess one of the last things I want to ask you is, we've talked a lot about death and death of yourself and death of variations, real or metaphorical. What has one thing about grief or loss in your life has taught you?
As cliche as it is, the time can heal most things. But in addition to that, you have to actually actively let time heal things.
That's interesting. Like,
a lot of people hold on to stuff and they convince themselves that they're never going to get over it. And I think people do this with anything from a death to a breakup. And you tell yourself, oh, I'm never going to be happy again. I'm never going to meet anyone as good as them. And like you convince yourself. I mean, because here's the thing about your brain. It's fairly malleable. And if you lie to it enough, you believe those lies. Like, how many times have you told a story to a friend that you've slightly exaggerated? And then after like 12 times, you yourself don't remember the honest truth of that story because you started to believe the exaggeration. And so I think your brain will do that with everything in life. And that's also the beauty of your brain, is you can lie to it the other way if you have to. But you convince yourself you're never going to get over it. You're never going to be the same. Your life's never going to get better. And that will happen. You will never get better. You have to tell yourself, if I can get through this, I can get through anything. And you have to let time do its thing. You have to trust that with time, the feelings will dissipate. You won't have such a big hole in your stomach. You won't cry as much. And with time, you'll wake up, and one day you'll wake up and you'll just be like, holy shit, I'm over it. It doesn't mean it still doesn't hurt if you let yourself sit in that pain too long. I mean, especially if you lose like a loved one. But you can get to a point where time will heal it, and you can even potentially see purpose in why it happened. And that's been probably my saving grace in life. And I think it's something I had to teach myself when I kind of divorced myself from religion, because I'm not an atheist, but I wouldn't consider myself a Christian. I don't really know what's out there. I really don't. So when people ask me about my religion, I don't know. All I know is that I've had too many odd things happen in my life that were too connected to be happenstance. I've had too many things happen that are like, there's something to this.
Yeah. And
so I think there's something that connects all of us. And for a large part, I think it's pain. I think pain connects a lot of us. I think that's where a lot of us can see eye to eye. And so what I was saying is, one thing that helped me when I stopped, with the religion I was raised in, is finding purpose in pain. And it helped me as a writer. And it's allowed me to write a lot of what I've written. A lot of the funniest stuff that I've written that people think is probably just me spouting off when I've had too much to drink comes from like probably something really fucked up that I found a purpose and a joke in. And I know you probably are the same way with stand-up.
That's why I'm laughing.
I mean, it helps you cope with a lot, being able to find purpose in the pain. And so I think if you can allow time to do its thing, and you have to actively try to see, what is the purpose in this? What can it teach me? How can I apply this in the future? No matter what you lose in life, you can move on. You 100% can get past it, and most likely you can get better from it.
I agree. I mean, I have done that and have tried to do that actively myself, is to turn. That's why this is here. Dying Laughing has been born because of all the loss I've endured, and I feel like this is, besides stand-up, this is my purpose now, is just bringing light to it, having people realize that on the other side of it, there are lessons and gifts and all of these amazing things that can help you realize why it happened, like you said. I'm so glad that we actually were able to sit down and talk. I want to have you back because you, like I said, go into the depths of everything. And I feel
like we only had like 2 questions.
I know. Well, I knew it would be like that.
Problem is, like, I ramble, man. It's
not
easy.
A problem.
It's easy for me to ramble.
It's not a problem.
That's how my brain operates.
It's not a problem at all. You're
24/7.
conversating about these things that matter. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for coming here. Guys, speech therapy is available. There is I don't want to call it a re-release. Slightly
It's a republication.
Republication.
I added what I went through the past year.
Yeah, because there's like 65.
I added stuff about losing my house. I added stuff about dealing with like almost going to bankrupt and stuff like that. I added stuff about
just those things.
When I was trying to deal with co-parenting, when I was coming to the idea that I was going to be a co-parent for the rest of my life. And so, when I wrote the original book, it was 2021. This new one came out and I finished writing it in 24. And so over those 3 years, a lot of shit changed in my life. And so I added new chapters of stuff that before I hadn't experienced. So I had like no idea how to even talk about it.
Real adult shit.
Honestly, it really is adult shit.
Losing relationships and houses.
Homeowner shit, like dealing with fucking leaky faucets.
HOA is nothing.
It does have an HOA
I read
chapter.
the HOA chapter because I'm dealing with HOA. What's he say about the HOA?
But it's good advice, though.
It is. It's all really good advice.
If you applied the HOA advice, it would get better.
Yes. I don't think I haven't taken notes in dealing with my HOA. Everybody, if you have to deal with an HOA, check out the book. There's so many other things. Compromising situation, death of a pet, things that you lose, being catfished. There's so many different topics in this book. Check it out, as well as fucking history. Is there anything else you have that you want to promote, or being a person who's disappearing into the ether?
I got nothing to plug. Like I said, I'm just going to go walk into the ocean and let it consume me.
For the book that almost killed him, we'll look out for that. And in this episode, if anything has come up for you, my niece is calling me right now. It's so funny. She's trying to FaceTime me.
You want to answer it?
I didn't, because who knows what she is doing right now.
How old is she?
She's 8, yeah.
That's a fun age. You should answer it.
She's so fun. I'll call her back after. This whole episode is about death and death of real or metaphysical or metaphorical things, and if it brought anything up in you and you guys have conversations in your mind you want to share with me, email me Jessimae pelusocomedy@gmail.com.
No one's gonna spell that.
Questions, comments, or concerns, give us an email, shoot us a DM. If you want to scream something into the canyon, scream it into your email. I'll read it on the podcast. And if this conversation inspired anything in you, check out his newsletter. I'll put that in the show notes so you become a member of that, mainly for myself, because now I'll be able to read, what's it called?
Monday Mutiny.
Monday Mutiny. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review for us. We love you guys. Die laughing, enjoy it. There's a lesson on the other side. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.